Welcome everyone to SlabStox 101 educational video series. I am your host Nate, and today we're going to be talking about positions to collect in every sport that we cover. So baseball, basketball, football, soccer. Obviously, when we talk about these positions, I'm going to be giving positions that are better than others for investment purposes, but that doesn't mean that you can't make money on any position. Your timing just has to be right. If you're looking at the first base market for baseball, not many first basemen sell very well. A lot of them hit very well, but people just don't love it because the defensive value there is not great. And yet Pete Alonso last year exploded from a $60 Bowman Chrome card to a $240 Bowman Chrome card. Shout out me, called that wrong. My bad. But Pete Alonso has also dropped back down this year to pretty terrible stats, and his card prices have dropped down with it. Dominic Smith is now actually the better first baseman in New York. That's neither here nor there. But it just goes to point out that Pete Alonso, first baseman, people made money on him, but it took 53 home runs in his rookie year to make money. Now that he's dropped back down to earth and isn't following that up with 53 home runs, people are not nearly as excited. So when we get into this, just know that no matter the position, you can make money. It just has to be the right timing. So some of these positions are much better at getting you money than others, but you can make money at any position. Now, let's cover the positions. This should be a very quick video. My last couple have been pretty long, so let's get into it. Baseball, shortstop reigns supreme. Anytime you have a shortstop that it's young and good, it's going to cost money, prospect side or otherwise. You know, you're looking at Wander Franco, shortstop, big money on the prospect side. Noelvi Marte, shortstop, big money. On the MLB side, you're looking at Fernando Tatis, Gleyber Torres, guys like that, all big money. And then you have outfield. Doesn't really matter the position in the outfield, though center field is preferred. Can be left or right. Also big money there. Obviously, Mike Trout is the crown jewel there. So you're going shortstop and outfield, 1 and 2, pretty close 1 and 2. And then from there it goes, I would say second base, third base, starting pitching, and then first base, catcher, relief pitcher. Second base and third base are pretty close to each other. Decent defensive positions, usually has some athletes there in both spots, but not as good as shortstop and outfield. And then starting pitcher, not super sought after. It depends on who you are, and what you're buying. Topps flagship, not a really sought after product for starting pitchers. Topps Chrome autos, Bowman Chrome autos, yes, you can get good money on starting pitchers for those. And then from there, first base catcher, kind of in the same vein. Pete Alonso kind of changed the first base market a little bit last year, but it's kind of fallen back down. And catcher, Adley Rutschman, number 1 overall pick, kind of changed the catcher's market, but he's more of an outlier, just like Pete Alonso. People just don't really care, even though like catching is a very tough position. They usually just don't have the bat that plays because catching is such a demanding position. They usually only play 120 or less games a year because you just can't play 162 games at 9 innings behind the plate. And then relief pitching, obviously the best relief pitchers in baseball. Think Josh Hader. His Bowman Chrome autos are $15. Just not a ton of value there. Nice to have for a personal collection, but nothing else. On to football, QBs reign supreme. If you're looking at football, you definitely want QBs. Think of all the great QBs right now: Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees for the old guys. And then you have young guys that aren't really proven yet, but are looking good. And Drew Lock, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, all those guys, they all command big money. After that, you've got running backs and wide receivers. I lump them together because they are just starting to move now. Previously, you'd see them move when a guy had a really good year. I think Chris Johnson for the Titans back in the day when he had 2,000 yards. You'd see those cards move. But overall, most running backs didn't move. Now you're watching running backs like Nick Chubb and other guys. Prices are moving up a little bit. Wide receivers side, prices are moving up on those guys too. Cortland Sutton tore his ACL. But guys like that, prices are moving up slightly compared to what they used to be. And that has to do, we think, with the daily fantasy market and fantasy football market. Just has an effect on that. People care more, and then they can get into cards. But that's neither here nor there, and that is not for this video. And then lastly, defense. Defense, tight ends, that type of stuff. If you have the right tight end it can sell better than defense. But for the most part, unless you're getting the top guy in the draft like Nick Bosa, you're really not looking at very good money for defensive players. And that's football in a nutshell. Quarterbacks over everything, running backs and wide receivers second, and everything else last. Doesn't mean you can't make money, but it's much harder to do than making money off of a quarterback. On the basketball side, I didn't go position-wise because basketball is weird and it's hard to classify people in positions. What do you classify Giannis? A point guard, a power forward, a center? He plays all three at varying, times of the game, and so you can't really classify that. What you can classify is I did ball-dominant players, guards and forwards. You can have ball-dominant centers, but we'll get to that. Ball-dominant guards and forwards. If they're ball-dominant and they're taking a ton of shots, you're going to make money. So you're thinking Giannis, you're thinking Jason Tatum, you're thinking Damian Lillard, LeBron, Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, all those guys, huge money there for ball-dominant guards and forwards. Next, you have guys that make shots that are off-ball guys, not ball-dominant guys. So I'm thinking like Tyler Hero, Chris Middleton, Klay Thompson. They'll have the ball in their hands from time to time, but they don't have it in as much as the stars on their team, like a Jimmy Butler for Tyler Hero, or Giannis for Chris Middleton, or a Steph Curry for Klay Thompson. But they're still big money because they're making shots and they're getting assists and playing defense, all that good stuff. Good players, just not the number one options on their team. And then lastly, guys that don't fit into those categories, not huge assets, but guys that don't fit into those categories but are stars are centers. And centers, they just don't sell well. You're looking at Karl-Anthony Towns, one of the best centers in the league, doesn't do a bunch of winning on his team. Not very valuable. Joel Embiid, another guy. Good prices on those cards, but not super valuable compared to equivalent players at a different position. Outside of Anthony Davis, who's listed as a center, doesn't really play center all that much from like a classical standpoint, and yet is worth a ton of money. He'd be the one outlier there. So if you're looking at the NBA market, we're talking ball-dominant players, non-ball dominant guys that score, and then centers. And then soccer or football. I asked Aaron about this because I don't know anything about soccer, and he said goal scorers would be number one. So, Ronaldo, Messi. Facilitators, I don't have any names for that, but facilitators, guys who touch the ball a lot, get a lot of assists. Defenders third, and then goalkeepers last. I have nothing to add to that list as I don't know soccer, but Aaron does, and he said goal scorers, facilitators, defenders, goalkeepers. So just keep that in mind when you're investing. Obviously, you can make money at any of these positions, but the top of the lists are easier to make money than the bottom. Anyways, thank you for listening to this SlabStox 101 video, and I will talk to you again in the next one.